Here's a couple of questions for you if you are the parent of a college bound teenager. Are you anxious about how competitive the college admission process has become? Are you uncertain about how to proceed with the test prep or college planning process for your teenager? Are you concerned about how you will pay for your teen's college tuition? Would you like to help your teen achieve his or her highest potential so that your child gets an advantage and has choices when it comes to admissions to colleges? Here's another question. How would you like to give your high school teen a strategic and time-proven test prep and college planning advantage that will allow him or her to achieve an increase of 250 SAT points or 5 points on the ACT or more, get admitted into more of his top college picks, while also qualifying for merit scholarships so as to help you save on your child's college tuition bill? You see, in today's cutthroat college admission environment, only a small fraction of the millions of seniors applying to college know how to achieve competitive test scores, secure spots in the freshman class at the top college picks, while also getting merit scholarships. You see, with changes on the new SAT and ACT and the increasing complexity and competitiveness of the college admission process, more and more college-bound teens are anxious about whether they'll be able to get strong test scores and figure out how to navigate a complex and ultra-competitive admission landscape. Now, for many students and parents, this is the reality they face. You see, they deal with a very high counselor-to-student ratio, and as such, these high school counselors, and it's not their fault, are not always able to provide high school students with the strategic guidance to navigate what has become a complex admission maze. So it's not surprising that most parents feel overwhelmed and anxious about not knowing how they can best help their teenage students. Hi, my name is Jonathan Mitchell.
And I'm Melody Mitchell.
In the next few minutes, I'm going to share exactly how Melody, my wife and co-founder of the UCAN Prep, and our coaches have created time-proven and reliable test prep and strategic college planning systems to give your child an unfair advantage in the test-taking and college admission process. You see, this decisive advantage will help your teen to get at least a boost of 250 points on the new SAT, 5 points on the ACT, but also get into more of his or her top college picks with free money to go to college regardless of your income. We're also going to share with you the single biggest mistake most parents and students do when it comes to preparing for standardized tests and planning for college. We will share 4 steps of our 8-step college prep system that will give your teen a decisive advantage to win the college admission as well as qualifying for merit scholarships. The proven 4-step system to ensure that your teen gets high test scores will help him or her qualify for merit scholarships.
And these are the exact same strategies that we've used since 1997 to help students gain as much as 610 points on the SAT, 7 points on the ACT, and get admitted into colleges like Harvard, Dartmouth, Brown, Princeton, Stanford, UCLA, Notre Dame, Oberlin, Swarthmore, UC Berkeley, and other selective colleges. And in the first picture, you can see one of the students, Preen, on her graduation day, along with some students from Loyola High School, a high school here in Southern California. On the second set of pictures at the bottom, you can see Brian Williams, Brian and his mom on Brian's graduation day. Brian really wanted to, his dream was to fly F-16s. And so when he was prepping for the SAT, he was telling us his goal to get into the Naval Academy. He had to have a certain score, and he was having a really hard time because he wasn't a natural test taker, as many students are. So he did accomplish his goal. You can see him here at the Naval Academy shaking the hand of President Obama. The next 2 pictures after that are Brian, a selfie with when he's up with his up in flying in the F-16 that he's in. And the very next picture, you can see Brian. And if you look very carefully in that picture, you can see his name, Brian Williams. So student, we want you to know that we really are excited about helping students and helping their dreams come true. That's just such a huge part of what we do. And we were excited to be a part of Brian's dream.
Absolutely. Brian was a really stellar student. He had strong grades. He had a solid transcript and some solid extracurricular activities, including, by the way, having a license, to fly Cessna planes. However, as Melody alluded to, like a lot of students, he was not a natural test taker. And he really fought hard, but we're very delighted that he got the numbers, he needed to get into the Naval Academy and to have his dreams come true.
Absolutely.
Yes. We have a motto here at the UCAN Prep, and that is first, you can. That's the name of the company. It's all about you can do this. But another thing is, if you're going to dream big, if you're going to dream, you might as well dream big. And definitely, we encourage all our students to really shoot for the stars. You might not land on the stars, but you definitely, by stretching, land on the moon.
Absolutely. So here are some other students we've worked with. We've worked with the daughter of T. Harv Eker. He is a New York Times bestseller, along with Maddie. And then we also worked with both of T. Harv Eker's children. We worked with Tony Plana. He's from Southern California. He had the smash hit Ugly Betty. We worked with both of his kids. And Alejandro was accepted to Stanford, Yale, and Princeton. And Alejandro started as a sophomore with us. And that's one of the things we'll be talking about on this webinar, the importance of starting early and getting great scores and then working with us on the college admission process.
Yeah, one quick tip is kind of behind the scenes here. We recommended to Alex's parents when he was still a sophomore to visit his top college picks in the sophomore year, follow up right in the junior year with individual tours, and definitely by the senior year go on the college nights, as well, of course, as to do the interviews. Now, Stanford does not offer interviews, but he interviewed at every single one of his top college picks. Clearly, if you think about this, what this communicates to the admission officer is that this is a student that had strong intentions of enrolling, you know what I'm saying, and it communicated his passion and his strong desire for the school.
And then some other celebrities that we've worked with here in Southern California, Jan Carl for Entertainment Tonight. Her daughter, Catherine, went to Mayfield Senior High School, and we worked with her on the ACT, and she went from a 28 to a 34. And so that's excellent. And some other students, we worked with the kids of Daniel Caruso. He's the director of Two for the Money and Eagle Eye. Brandon went to Pepperdine, his oldest son. And some other students. One actually is Mark Hamill's son. Here's Luke Griffin Hamill. We all know Mark Hamill from Star Wars, and we just had the pleasure of working with his family too.
As a matter of fact, first time I saw Griffin, who, as you can see, is the spitting image of his father, I immediately said, may the force be with you, Luke.
That's right.
Yeah, he just looks so much like his father.
And then we were picked by the city of Pasadena to provide free test prep workshops to local high schools. That was a great experience. And along with counselors have raved about our program, our programs at their schools. We did a program at Ramona Convent. We went to the school and did a workshop with them. And we also worked with this counselor's daughter. Another counselor at Laxa, which is a magnet school in Southern California, had some great things to say about UCAN. And then we've worked with students all over the world, and it's just been such a thrill to just connect with so many students. Students find us, actually. They find us on the internet and reach out to us. And then we worked with a lot of students here in Southern California and then students all over the world. It's just been fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. We offer, through the internet and online. We offer online programs. So as a result, we're being really able to serve students from around the United States and internationally. As you can see, we have had students from Brazil, in England, India, and so on and so forth. Okay, awesome. So you see, over the past few years, we have been being a college prep company committed to helping hundreds and hundreds of ambitious college-bound students achieve three following things. One, exploding their SAT or ACT test scores, getting them admitted, helping them get admitted into the top college picks, but also helping them qualify for merit scholarships, which is, of course, as you know, is free money that allows parents to significantly save on their college tuition bill. And we've been doing all of this for over 15 years. So if you're the parent of a serious and ambitious college-bound student or a student who has the willingness to work hard, you're definitely in the right place. You're going to love what we're about to share with you. Now, the top families we work with fall into the following categories. One, parents who are very involved in their teens' high school career and smart enough to realize that times have changed and they do not know all the ins and outs of the test prep and admission process, and hence they seek guidance to give their high school teens a competitive advantage. We also work well with parents or parent of a freshman, a sophomore, or junior who is serious, ambitious, and is seeking to get strong test scores once they get admitted into strong colleges. Also, a parent whose teen may not be ranked in the top 5% of their high school, but whose teen is a hard worker, follows instructions, and is willing to put in the work. Also, we also work with parents who, some of them never graduated from college or did not go to college, but are committed to ensure that their child gets into strong colleges. By the way, a student who will be the first in the family to go to college has a very, very strong hook, and we're going to be talking about hooks later on.
All right, one of the students that we had the pleasure of working with was Chris Owen. He goes to Marshall Fundamental. It's a public high school here in Southern California and actually in Pasadena. And he got into over 14 of his colleges, including UC Berkeley. Ohio State he also got into and ended up going to Ohio State. And he was awarded a total of $410,000 in total merit scholarships. And he started his college prep and test prep in the spring of his sophomore year. It's another example of a student who started early in the whole process of test prep. And he had a gain of over 400 points. Here's another student, Patrick. He graduated from Johns Hopkins just this past spring. And his numbers, when he came to us, were lower than what Johns Hopkins really needed. But he had something that he was, he had done he had done research at Caltech, which gave him a great advantage. But he also, when we talked to him about his hook, what we could help him distinguish himself from other students, we talked to him about being a performing artist. He had been in his high school, he had been in theater all 4 years. And so we put that out in front of the scientists. And with that, along with his GPA, I think he had a 4.0 GPA?
4.1.
4.1. He was able to get into Johns Hopkins.
Yeah. The important thing about Patrick is first, he attended a very, very competitive local school, San Marino, here in Southern California. And frankly, he did not have the numbers he needed for Johns Hopkins. At the time on the old test, his numbers was approximately around a 1950. Johns Hopkins will want at least a 22, high 21 to a 22 and above. And so we really saw the need to help position him And as Melody alluded to, two of the significant hooks he brought to the table were research he had done at Caltech, with working with an assistant professor, but also he had been the performing artist. So we decided to focus first on him being, the theater buff. In other words, the hook statement we had was Taiwanese thespian who happens to have done research at Caltech. By focusing first on his background in theater, we knew that would truly single him out versus all the other mostly just science type, students, who mostly just focused on science without necessarily having a humanities background or theater background. So it worked beautifully. And by the way, I know time flies so quickly. It appears it was this spring, but it was actually last spring of 2015 that he graduated.
Mm-hmm. So the next student we can talk about is, there we go, is Roxanne. Now, Roxanne had a 3.2 GPA. She went to Gabrielino Public High School here in Temple City, and Roxanne was able to get into American University. And the same thing is true of Patrick was of Roxanne. Once we were able to find out what her hooks were and really push those to the forefront, they really compensated for her 3.2 GPA. So she was admitted into Syracuse, American U, and because the focus was on what she did really well, in her case, she was the activist. Her mom's in politics, and she did a lot of campaigning in her area, in where her mom was in politics, and so she was able to get into American U with that focus on being the political activist.
Yeah, she did a lot of canvassing throughout high school, and helped elect, through her push, and of course through the community, some community leaders and so forth. So, that indeed, as Melody just shared, her being the political activist was highlighted on her applications, and that was like one of her number one hooks. So as you can see here, despite that GPA, she ends up getting into one of the best political science programs in the country, American U. She decided, by the way, to go to Syracuse.
Right, and next is talking about our next student is...
Okay, the next student here is Aubrey Walker. He basically was a student we worked with from Polytechnique here locally, and definitely his number one hook was that of the leader. He had some other hooks, and of course, and we're jazzed. He besides ending up with very very competitive test scores. He basically got admitted into not one, but two of his dream schools, which was Stanford and Harvard. And as you can see here is Aubrey in the spring, also at Harvard Yard, graduating. So it's awesome, right? So again, this just gives you some ideas of the scores and scores of case studies we have on file. So the best thing about this predictable test score system and building is that it can be adapted by any student as long as the student implements it as soon as possible. It also works with any student who is coachable and is willing to put in the necessary work and effort to apply the system. It's based on proven results after working with students in the test prep and admission trenches over the last 15 years. Now, when it comes to admission results among students at your teen's high school or in your community, we are sure you have noticed that students typically fall into one of these 6 broad categories. You have the driven prodigy, and so these are the students whose results no one is surprised by. They strategically position themselves, and as a result of their drive and their utter brain power, they get admitted into colleges of the caliber of Stanford, MIT, Princeton, Swarthmore, Caltech, Harvard. You get the gist. Then you have number two, the uber hardworking student with, say, average intelligence. Now, these students can also get into the top college picks if they strategically make the right moves in high school. And by strategically, I'm mostly referring to positioning, strategic positioning. And we're going to cover a little bit of this in the next couple of minutes. Number three, you have basically how the heck did this student get into these colleges? These are students who come way out of left field, surprising everyone because of the caliber of college they get admitted to. This was an example of the case of Roxanna and Patrick, As a matter of fact, a lot of students we met later on from San Marino were quite surprised. They shared with us they were really surprised about Patrick's admission into Johns Hopkins because, again, he was not part of the top 1% or even 5% of his class. Then you have oh my gosh, this student has everything going for him or her. Why did she get rejected from all these colleges? Well, these are the students who seem to have everything going for them, yet they receive rejection letters from all of the top college picks. Now, are admission decisions sometimes predictable? Yes. However, when their college applications are scrutinized, these students typically miss 3 to 4 of the 8 success admission factors we have uncovered. We're going to cover in the next couple of minutes 4 of these factors. All right? Great. Now you have the average student, the run-of-the-mill student. Typically, if this student had planned early, started early the process, and had the right coaches, this student could have moved up the ladder in terms of admission achievement. Then finally, we have the ho-hum, unmotivated, and really couldn't care less about school student. And, a lot of students in this category have a ton of potential, and they're truly capable, but until their inner motivation kicks in, or apathy will absolutely bury these students' gifts. Most of this time, these students have limited choices as far as colleges to attend. Now, so here's a question. What is it that makes students in category 1, 2, and even 3 succeed and get into the top college picks, whereas students in the remaining categories are left out in the cold and have to settle for college they don't want to attend? So, after having worked privately with over 1,145 families as their test prep coaches and the college consultants for over 15 years, we have observed 8 common factors among students who win the test prep and college admission game. We call these the 8 college planning force multipliers. So the truth is, if your teen has 7 to 8 of these college planning multipliers in place, your child has a very strong chance of achieving not only high test scores, but also getting into more of his or her top college picks, while also qualifying for merit scholarships. Now, over the years, we have seen students come to us in the summer prior to their senior year to help prepare them for the college applications. You see, on the surface, some of these students look really strong on paper. You see, they focus throughout their high school on building and achieving, for instance, strong transcripts. They may even have 8 to 10 APs, 4 or 5s on their AP exams or IB exams. They come to the table with a very, strong weighted GPA, sometimes 4 or 4 and above, very competitive ACT or SAT scores, strong extracurricular activities. But under close examination, they typically miss 2, 3, or even 4 of these force multipliers. You see, these success factors we just named should definitely be in place by the sophomore year. And as such, these students get into great colleges but have an exceptionally hard time getting into the dream schools. And typically, I'm, of course, referring to the most elite and selective U.S. colleges. So, students who do get in, who get strong scores, get into the dream schools and qualify for merit scholarship, take a very, very, very different approach. Now, while the majority of good students are obsessed in developing and strengthening these important factors such as a strong transcript, strong weighted GPAs, competitive ACT or SAT scores, and strong extracurricular activities, the best of the best who have a true insider understanding of what admission officers are looking for not only work on these 4 important college prep factors, but they also focus on deploying all 7 to 8 of the college prep multipliers. As such, these students win the admission game by getting into the top college picks and also receive merit scholarships. Now, we want you to pause for a moment and let this point really sink in, because it's the exact opposite to what everybody else out there is feeding you and your teen. You see, in today's fiercely competitive admission era, parents and students obsess over important admission factors but ignore or are unaware of other vital factors that will dramatically boost the students' chances of admission into the top college picks while improving their odds of receiving also merit scholarships. So again, for instance, parents and students will solely focus on important admission factors such as getting strong test scores, getting strong grades, building a solid transcript, building an extensive extracurricular activities, which parenthetically, we have seen, by the way, students come to us with literally a bio that, will on the surface intimidate most adults. I'm talking about a bio of activities, maybe even 15, 20 pages, but there's a problem. They kind of took the gunshot approach. Let's just do all these things as opposed to taking the marksmanship or rifle approach, which is highly, highly focused, where they've isolated and identified 3 hooks at the most and focus on those activities throughout high school. Now, remember that I told you, now these students, by the way, these activities we just mentioned in the previous slide, please understand, they're very important. But
exactly,
if they're not executed in tandem with 7 to 8 of these force multipliers, that student has a very slim chance of getting admitted into his or her dream college and receiving merit scholarships. Now, remember that I told you that all students who have at least 6 of the 8 factors in common working for them and that the rest don't, okay? So we call these the 8 UCAN-Prep's 8 force multipliers. Now, there are 8 factors that students who win the test prep, college admission, and merit scholarship game share in common. However, each of these 8 strategies could take hours to expound on. So for time's sake, I'm just going to briefly go over 4 of the 8 key strategies. Now, by the way, strategy number 4 will not only boost your child's admission chances to his or her top college picks, but happens to be one of the biggest factors in achieving high test scores and qualifying for merit scholarships. Now, let's briefly go over some of these here. UCAN-Prep force multiplier number 1. Now, these students typically start planning and building their academic and extracurricular bio early as the 7th to the 8th grade, as they continue to strengthen both all throughout, high school years. Now, think about it for a second. For example, say you have a student who, through planning, gets into, say, Algebra 1 in the 7th and in 7th grade, and say Geometry in the 8th grade. That student can now qualify to get into Honors Algebra 2, in 9th grade freshman year, and then proceed on to pre-calculus by the 10th grade. Now, obviously, for students who are in schools that teach Common Core, that may not apply, but you get the idea here. So this will give that student the opportunity to take the Subject 2C Math, the SAT 2C Math subject in the 10th grade, and then go on to Calculus AB by the 11th grade. So this strategy, by the way, also enables the student to front-end their APs. And by the way, front-ending means that the student takes the most challenging APs or IBs by the 10th and the 11th grade. Also, these college courses are absolutely relevant to the student's major. Now, strong scores of 4s or 5s on these AP exams can then be shown on the college applications, whereas the results of AP exams that are taken in the senior year cannot be showcased in the college applications. Now, by the way, a critical hook, we're going to talk about UConn Prep's Force Multiply number 2. And this is where you have the parents or a trusted teacher or counselor identifies early on in the student one of several hooks. Now, when you have a student who identify these hooks earlier, then they can strengthen and deepen these hooks over the 4 years in high school. A hook is a trait, skill, talent, unique experience, quality that helps to distinguish a student in the college admission process. We have identified, by the way, as many as 28 hooks. Now, a critical hook is the admission hook. The student identifies, builds, and strengthens one singular academic hook that is directly related to either his or her major or primary hook. Now, let's give an example here of a student who identified her hooks.
Okay, my name is
So
Joe.
specifically, before I go over this, that video here, bear with me. Here we go. So, Paloma, who besides going from an 1800 to a 2200 on the old SAT, and also who achieved a 420-point set point gain, she focused on strengthening her 3 strong hooks: the leader, the do-gooder, and the social activist. And by the way, here's what her father had to say about the whole process.
Okay, my name is James Scott, and I want to say how much I appreciate everything that UCAN has done for my daughter Paloma. It has been a wonderful experience for the whole family, and particularly because she started at 1850 on the SAT and went up to 2190. It was incredible. So she has done so well. It's given her a lot of confidence, and we're really looking forward to the application process, and I think that she's going to do really well. So there's just I can't say enough of how great this experience has been.
Yes. By the way, I apologize there. There's a typo. It's actually a 2190 score, which is basically for a lot of the Ivy colleges, high 21 or 22 is really what is the minimum needed, you know what I'm saying, to qualify, to be seriously considered. With those 3 hooks, the leader, the do-gooder, and the social activist,
Okay, my name is
you'll be able to see in a second the college she got into. And here was the school. She was admitted to Brown, her dream college. Now,
Way to go, Paloma.
absolutely. So briefly again, 2190 and 3 hooks: the leader, the do-gooder, and the activist. These definitely helped her gain admission to Brown. And by the way, her mom sent us this picture. And by the way, Yolanda, her mother, sent us this really sweet, really nice email and an update of hers. And I'll just share this with you, and then I'll read it to you. Hi, Jonathan. Paloma finished her sophomore year at Brown with 8 A's in 8 classes completed. And here's the great news. She's got an early admission to medical school at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai in New York. She still has to graduate from Brown, of course, but no MCATs and no more pre-med requirements, which if you have a son or daughter who's been through medical school or is planning to go to medical school, most of them are so concerned about, or were concerned about the MCATs and all those pre-med requirements, and she actually is going straight, into the program, which is beautiful. And as she says here, thank you and Melody for helping her get into a top school and launching her to succeed in everything she endeavors. We keep in touch with a lot of our parents and students, and
Definitely.
yeah, and so awesome, to hear their updates of the success and progress. Okay, here is UConn Prep's Force Multiply in number 3. The student strategically designs a list of colleges that are well matched to the student's values, interests, and needs. So this list of colleges are also segmented into A+ colleges, which are wildcard schools, A colleges, which are the reach schools, B colleges, likely schools, C colleges, which are the safety schools. Now, so it's vital, it is absolutely vital to strategically think through that college list. This is where we see lots of students go wrong. They will very often pick schools that everyone hears about, the brand name schools and so forth. So here in Southern California, obviously, lots of students want to be applying to colleges like Berkeley, UCLA, USC, Stanford, and so forth. But then there are so many more colleges out there, maybe not as well known, that may not have the cachet, so to speak, but could be perfect for the student. They offer superb departments, in that student's field of study. So it's vital to do the research and to come up with one or two of these, the wild card colleges where the students' odds, frankly, are not good, but it's their absolute dream school. Then come up with 3 to 5 A colleges, 3 to 5 B colleges, and 3 to 5 safety schools. Now, if financial aid is important to the family, the list also needs to contain colleges that are also very generous, ideally for both need-based aid. Financial aid based, which is financial aid based on the family's finances, and also merit-based aid, which is scholarships based on students' academic and extracurricular achievements. So an example, you may have a student who actually does getting into the dream school, like a school like NYU, but NYU is notoriously known to not be very generous when it comes to financial aid. So if the student really didn't think through that list and in terms of making sure that they apply to schools that are really financially generous and so forth, that student, especially if family is in dire need of financial aid, is really setting themselves up for major disappointment, because they may get in, but then their parents will not be able to to afford the tuition. Now, let's get down to business and go over the specifics of You Can Force Multiply number 4, which is a test planning system to help your son or daughter get high test scores and qualify for merit scholarships. Now, when your teen follows this predictable system, regardless whether your teen is a natural test taker or has test anxiety and thus performs poorly on standardized tests, your child would be able to significantly boost his or her test scores and also qualify for merit scholarships, thereby securing financial aid important for your family. Now, while all the students may struggle and submit lackluster test scores, you will know that your child submitted test score numbers needed at his or her top college picks, and possibly even helping your child in the process qualify for merit scholarships. Now, by the way, we want to quickly dispel a huge myth, and that is a student does not have to be a genius to qualify for merit scholarships. So, let's talk about cracking the test prep code. To crack the test prep code, you need to follow this 4-part test planning system. Here we go. So, test prep planning system number 1, and that is you got to determine whether your child should take the SAT or the ACT. So, to accomplish this, get an early baseline on both the SAT and ACT score to assess which test your teen naturally gravitates towards. So, for example, let's say you have a student who takes both diagnostic tests and gets, say, a 1260 on the new SAT and a 29 on the ACT. Now, please write these two numbers down. A 1260 on the SAT and a 29 on the ACT. So please go ahead, okay? 1260 on the new SAT and a 29, okay? Because what I'm about to share will make sense in a minute or so, okay? Oh, by the way, if you would like, for us to administer a free diagnostic test, it could be live at our center if you're in Southern California, or if you'd like for us to do this online, you can absolutely, we can offer this, okay, free of charge, and you can take both tests, both the SAT and the ACT baseline test, and guess what? We'll be able to help you, especially when we meet to share with you exactly which test would be better for your son or daughter. Let's go back to the test prep planning number 2, okay? Step number 2, and that is, once you have your teen's baseline score on the new SAT, use the College Board's converter tool to convert the new SAT score to the ACT score. So that SAT score converter College Board tool can be found at bit.ly/24MHTHI. So once again, I'm just going to leave this on the screen. You may want to write this down. It's bit.ly/24 M as in Mary, H as in Harry, Tom, H as in Harry, and I as in Irene. Okay, so let's use the examples we just used. So what you will do is you plug in that converter tool, that 2660. Now, using this converter tool, you will notice that a 1260 converts to approximately an 1820 on the old SAT test. Now, what you need to do then is convert that 1820 to an ACT score, and that score will be approximately a 27. Now, remember the student's actual ACT diagnostic test was a 29, whereas the converted SAT score to an ACT score is a 27? Well, clearly, the ACT baseline score is higher. So this tells us that the student should most probably focus on prepping on the ACT, as this test will give him or her the greatest probability of getting the highest possible score. So step number 3, strategy 3 is, based on your teen's baseline score, determine now which of 2 strategic testing timelines to follow. We have found after 17 years of experience, we have found that the sweet spot to beginning prepping is the spring of the sophomore year. Now, this is especially critical for students who are aiming for very strong gains and want to qualify to be a National Merit Scholar by October of their junior year. As a matter of fact, in a couple of minutes, we're going to give you an example of a student who is absolutely on track to do just that. Now, you can prep students start ideally prepping in the spring of the 10th grade. We've had some students, by the way, who start as early as their freshman year, by spring of the freshman year. Now, these students will use one of 2 timelines based on their baseline scores. Timeline A, timeline B. So typically, if a student on the new SAT test scores lower than an 1100, they will follow timeline A. But if they score higher than an 11 to around 1150 to a 12 and above, actually 1200 and above, they will follow timeline B. Okay? Now, here's timeline A here. So again, we've shared with you more or less what the average test scores are. So as you will notice here, you will have them start off, okay, in the 10th grade. We definitely have them take their very first PSAT, in the junior year. Then they get to take their first official SAT test in December, and then the second SAT test in March. But remember, that student is on track. He is most likely starting with a low SAT score, let's say a 1050. So we want to make sure that they also use the summer before their senior year to really get the necessary boost to give them the best chance where they can end up with very competitive SAT or ACT score. And so that's why we have them take the final test in October, which, by the way, can be used also for the applying early decision, ED or EA. Okay. Now, by the way, that principle is very similar for students who are on track and using track A, but also who need basically to take and focus on the ACT test. Okay. All right. So that point is typically December, their first ACT test, then April, their second ACT test, and the last ACT test is September before their senior year. Okay, am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, yeah. Good, so track B. All right, stronger test takers also start in the spring of their sophomore year, and then they take 2 to 3 official SAT or ACT tests in the junior year, as well as a subject test. Now, when done with all their tests by June of the junior year, these students can use the summer prior to the senior year to focus on their college application. So notice the difference here. They're starting with a much higher SAT score, let's say a 1200 or above, all right, on their baseline test. So indeed, they start prepping in the 10th grade. They take their first PSAT in the 11th grade, the first SAT test in December, the second SAT test in March, and bam, they're done. If they have to take it a third time by June, and they definitely want to be taking the subject test in May. Okay, great. And the whole idea, ideally, is to be done with all the testing by the end of the junior year, so that now they can focus in the summer on their college applications, right? Because all the testing is all done. All the subject tests are done, and all the SAT tests or ACT tests are done. Okay, all right, so here's a cardinal mistake Melanie and I see students and parents make all the time. It's not their fault, but this is something you need to be aware of. The number one factor, that typically prevents a student from achieving a very high test score, and for that matter, a strong admission results, is starting the planning process late. Okay. Now, this is not to say that the student who starts prepping in the spring of the junior year can't end up with strong numbers.
That's right.
Okay. But if the student had started the process just 6 months or a year earlier, the odds of the student achieving his or her test score and admission potential is dramatically higher. Now, test prep planning strategy, number 4. Okay. So just a quick recap. Step 1 is you basically need to take a baseline test on both the ACT and SAT test. Step 2 is you gotta, in essence, identify of both tests, either the SAT or the ACT test, which one to focus on. Which one of these tests, 2 tests, will most likely give the student the chance to score the highest, Step 3 we talked about is making sure you identify timeline A or timeline B, so that you can optimize, your student's score. And then finally, strategy number 4. This is so critical. You need to find test prep coaches who have a track record of over 10 years and have a time-proven test prep system. You see, here's the facts. Very, very few test prep coaches are brilliant and effective at teaching and helping their students achieve great test score results on both the verbal and math and writing portion of the SAT or ACT test. Hence, it is vital to have a master math coach focus exclusively on teaching the math section of the SAT and ACT and science portion of the ACT, while a master verbal coach focus exclusively in teaching the reading and writing portions of the SAT and ACT test. Now, here, the best part of following this 4-step planning system, okay? 1, you will have the peace of mind in knowing that your teen is in good hands. Your teen will end up with test scores that will allow him or her to be in the top 25 percentile test score range needed at his or his or her top college picks. Now, when you have these 4-part test prep factors in alignment, your teen will unlock the test prep code and get amazing results, just like our students have experienced. So here's a couple examples here. Ben started off with an 1800 and ended up with a whopping 2380 out of 2400 on his January 2016 SAT score. By the way, you'll see Ben there, and then on his right is one of our top master test prep coaches. We only work with master, either college planners, college consultants, or test prep coaches. And Tanner was instrumental in helping him achieve a 710 on the PSAT and a 750, and we helped him on the critical reading get a 750, so he had a total of 1460. But he gets even better. As you can see here, when he took the test in January 2016, this was his second attempt, by the way, you will see that he got a perfect score on the critical reading, a perfect score on the math, and a 780 on the writing. Melody, by the way, did a brilliant job. Brilliant, okay, help him get a 780. So total, now Ben has a total of a 2380 score. So he's done by January. Here's another student. She achieved a 290 SAT point score gain and received actually a $45,000 merit scholarship from Pepperdine, one of her top college picks. So you can see here, Jessica in the picture. She's in the middle. And she followed track B. In other words, her numbers were a little bit higher and such. She was on track B, and so she was able to be done by her junior year. Pepperdine, as mentioned, okay, offered her $45,000 in merit scholarships. By the way, parenthetically, Jessica had 3 hooks: the survivor, the do-gooder, the leader, and paid jobs. the survivor, by the way, is one of the hooks that we have uncovered, and it typically applies to a student who has experienced major hardship in life and were victorious and overcame it. So in her case, Jessica battled sclerosis, in the back since she was a child, and having experienced just multiple operations, over and over, very painful. She, in spite of that, triumph, and her story was really a celebration of the human spirit,
That's right.
Absolutely. Now, by the way, here's her letter from the financial aid office from Pepperdine. And Dr. Mike Steffen, her father, shared something really awesome, and he shared UCAN was awesome for our daughter. The SAP prep, while a commitment, helped her raise her score by 290 points. And the college planning helped keep her focused and helped her meet her goal of getting accepted into all of her top colleges, top schools with academic scholarships. Our second daughter, by the way, Naomi, who we'll introduce you to here in the next screen, is currently a sophomore in the midst of the SAT prep, and she's preparing for the May SAT test. Jonathan and Melody truly invest in the students, and of course, everyone loves Tanner. Highly recommend UCAN prep for both SAP prep and college planning. By the way, something very interesting. Dr. Steffen and his wife are both medical doctors. So as you can imagine, they couldn't qualify for regular merit aid because of their high income. And so in this case, because of her outstanding, application, focusing on those hooks we mentioned, as well, of course, as her test score and all the other areas, which are all part of the 8, step multiplying force we refer to, she was able to qualify for merit scholarships, which is awesome, right? And parenthetically, any student can qualify for merit scholarships as long as a number of key factors are in place. Mm-hmm. Now, you notice that he referred to his younger daughter. Well, guess what? Here is Naomi. Now, Naomi ended up taking the test not in May, but in June as a 10th grader. So as it says here, like her sister, Naomi followed Track B, starting prepping by the end, by the way, of her freshman year.
That's correct.
Yep. She achieved a 1520 on her first try on the new SAT test in June 2016 in her sophomore year. Now, with the
out of 1,600.
Yes, thank you, Melody, for bringing this up. As you may be aware, for those who are listening, on the new SAT test, the highest score you can get is a 1,600. So to get a 1520 out of the gates as a sophomore is remarkable. On top of that, she has a 4.8 weighted GPA, and with that, in combination with us guiding her through the college planning process, Naomi has a very good chance in getting admitted into dream school, which is Stanford. Here's her, by the way, her College Board SAT score that Naomi texted us quite recently. And you see the breakdown of her scores, a 740 on the evidence-based reading and writing and a 780 on math. By the way, she is, as we speak, she will be junior in the fall. And
she'll take the PSAT.
And we are confident that she will qualify as a National Merit finalist.
Hi, my name is Grace Lidham. I'm a senior right now at Crescenta Valley High School, and I started UCAN around my sophomore year, just trying to get a little bit help on my SAT. So my original score for SAT was a 1,400. And so Melody, Jonathan, and Tanner all helped me with the different areas of the SAT. My struggle definitely was the verbal section, but Jonathan really helped me with that gain. I actually got my last official SAT was a 720 on the verbal score. And so my last official score on the SAT was a 2060. So that's definitely really big help, and thank you to all of them. I also worked on them with the ACT as well. My original score was a 24, and so I was able to get help with areas, especially science. So Tanner helped me with science, and I ended up with a 32 on my ECT. And now I chose the college. I'm going to Bentley University, and just want to thank UCAN for helping me with SAT and ACT, and also the college planning process as well.
Awesome. I love that grin at the end there. Grace, by the way, was a self-proclaimed poor test taker. She gave you more or less where she began. But she had the right mindset. She had the right system behind her, and also, by the way, she followed track A, which was again starting early, in the spring of her sophomore year, and having to take the test one last time in October of her senior year. Great. Now again, you have to have the right system to be able to do this and get these results. So you can do it the hard way. You can do it the hard way, which is like going up to the lock, locker, and trying to guess the lock. But did you know that there are more than 10,000 possible combinations to a 4-digit lock? Or you or your team can try to crack the test prep code yourself, and maybe you will find a combination that will work, in 6 months or a year. Maybe never. That being said, you can do it the easy way and just crack the code and get the results immediately. Now, obviously, it's going to take time, all right? But that's what we do all day, all week long and all months long, okay, day in, day out for our parents and students we serve. Great. So now you're probably thinking, how can I help my child get motivated and achieve his or her potential, achieve higher test scores, get admitted into more top college picks, qualify for merit scholarships to help you save tens of thousands of dollars in your college tuition bill? You see, because right now we're looking for a few more of our dream families that we can help achieve the kind of massive results that I've shared with you. And by the way, those few case studies are just a handful of the hundreds of testimonials and case studies we have on hand. So that's why, for a very, very limited time, we would like to meet you in a test prep and college planning strategy and audit session if you meet the criteria below. In others, we would love to invite you to attend one of those. But you got to qualify. Now, we basically work primarily with 3 types of parents. You got basically, we have the parents who want their students to get strong results, who are ready to invest now in a strong college prep program and don't penny pinch and delay decisions. And parents who are committed to give their teen a college prep advantage and help their child dramatically move with confidence towards achieving test score and college admission goals instead of rolling, the test prep and admission dice, and getting battered by poor test score and admission results. We also work well with parents who want to dramatically increase their teens' odds of qualifying, for merit scholarships. Now, here's how the process works. During this complimentary college prep audit I just referred to, we will be focused on a specific and custom-tailored strategy and execution to help you solve the 3 biggest problems that most parents and students face, which are: 1, how to identify a list of colleges that are the best matches for your child; how to identify the best test prep preparation timeline to turbo boost your child's SAT or ACT scores so that the higher test scores can translate into merit scholarships at the right college. Also 3, how to uncover the hooks that will help you identify and stand out, help your child stand out and win the admission process. Okay. We will go over the 8 force multipliers referred to. This college prep strategic session will take around 40 to 45 minutes, and you'll be speaking personally with your spouse, your teen, and yourself, with Melody and I personally. We will conduct an audit to assess what your child has already done and help you put together a strategy to help you and your teen achieve your goals. Now, this is very important. Who is this not for? First of all, it is definitely, not for a student who's unwilling to put in the work necessary to advance him or herself. It's definitely not for a student who makes excuses, complains, is apathetic, and lacks the willingness to put in the necessary work to get the edge. Now, frankly, we have had some students who fit that category, but their parent had that hope. And what we did when we spent time with that young man or woman is we really got them to see their vision as to what's possible in spite of the past, And as such, they were able to tap finally into that motivation that they may have been lacking, and they ended up doing just remarkable. This is not just about improving test scores and getting into schools. It's about transformation.
That's correct.
Yes. Also very important. This is not for parents who are frankly just only interested in information gathering mode, and who are not prepared right now to invest in their kids so as to take the needed actions to help the teen get results. And it's not for the student who's not serious about working hard to achieve strong test score gains and lacks the ambition to get admitted into his or her top college picks. Who is this for? Simple. This session is for parents who are committed to help their college-bound teen get an advantage in the test prep and college admission process. It's for parents who are willing to have some skin in the game and understand that they need to invest some money to give their teen a test prep, college planning, and admission advantage. But it's also for parents who are looking for a proven test prep and college prep system to give their child an edge. Very frankly, working with us as a client is not cheap, but most of our families experience massive results and get a huge return on their investment as a result of their child's transformation, personal, as well as their child's test score gains, admission results, and merit scholarship received, typically by March or April of the teen's senior year. Now knowing that we are a good fit is crucial because we like to get our families results. And we work with families so that they get results, and we work with them on a long-term basis. The truth is, there are some people out there who really we can't help. And if that's the case, at the conclusion of this complimentary session, we'll be very upfront with you. And we'll suggest someone else or an alternative program. We are only looking for those families that Melly and I and our coaches feel that will be a good fit and we are certain we can get results for. Now, the first step is to complete an application for a private test prep college planning and admission strategic session below. And this application is necessary to be able to determine a couple of important factors. Number one, that we can help you and that we're the best possible coaches to help you generate college prep results. And two, that you as a parent are ready to step up, commit, take action, and take the required steps to ensure that your teen gets the results you're looking for. Now, once we receive your application, you'll be able to schedule a time with us to conduct your test prep college planning strategy session. And this is where we'll really start working together, again for free, to figure out what you want and how to make it happen with predictability. By the way, the application will probably take you no more than 5 or 10 minutes to fill out. It's online, super simple. At the end of the session one or two things will happen. Either you'll be a fit and we'll extend an invitation to work with us as one of our clients, or if we're not a good fit, that's totally okay too. Now, there will be no hard feelings or obligations or anything like that. Either way, you will receive an insanely valuable strategic college prep session, and you will walk away, we guarantee that, regardless whether you're a client of ours or not, with newfound clarity as to where your teen is right now and what your teen has to do and what's, to get his or her objectives met, and what's also holding back your child from achieving these desired results. So that, together with the exact next steps necessary to take action and break through your child's barriers, So it will likely be the most valuable 30 to 45 minutes you will invest in your child this very year. So go ahead and just simply complete your application now, and we'll see if we're a good fit for working together. So just so you're aware, right now we have over 89 families applying in the last 30 days, so this opportunity is extremely limited because of the intense one-on-one time needed to provide you with the results. And because, as I said earlier before, we only work with families who we know with certainty and conviction that we can generate them results. So out of every 50 or so that apply, we can generally only work with 10 families at a time. And right now, 7 of these 10 spots are currently filled up, and we're looking to fill the last 3 as quickly as possible. Once our coaches, Melly's, and my spots are taken, we will no longer be able to take on any new families. So with that being said, please understand that this window of opportunity won't be available for very long. And what we have found that those who have the ability to make decisions rapidly and act quickly are those that are most likely where we can help their teens get results and are likely to become our best clients, allowing us to help their teen crush the test prep and college admission process. So, as it says here again, time's a factor, and this window of opportunity will not be open for very long. So very simple. Apply now, okay? Just simply, if you really feel this is right for you, just go ahead, click the available link, and apply right now to see if you qualify. Then go ahead and follow the instructions on the next page. Melody and I look towards seeing you, your spouse, and your college-bound teen at your upcoming complimentary session. With that being said, thank you very much for your time, and God bless.
God bless.